Good afternoon, Stuart Williamson here, APW Market Wrap 192. UK in recession. What does it mean? The UK fell into recession at the end of 2023 after a bigger than forecast contraction in the final 3 months. The data from the ONS estimated that gross domestic product fell by 0.3% in the fourth quarter, following a decline of 0.1% in the previous 3 months. This marks the first time the UK has entered a recession since the first half of 2020, when the initial COVID-19 lockdown sent the economy plunging. Here we're going to look at the implications of that, what are they for the economy, and what does it mean for the UK property market. Now firstly, what is a recession? A recession is defined by 2 or more quarters in a row of falling gross domestic product, GDP. The UK was therefore declared to be technically in recession after the ONS received the fall in between October and December, followed by the 0.1 drop in the previous 3 months. Why is the UK in recession? Recession comes after households and businesses have been battered, squeezed, shot, punched by ongoing cost pressures and a lengthy run of interest rate rises that took the bank rate from just over 0% to 5.25%, the highest level since 2008. This heaped further cost pain on millions of mortgage borrowers, with all but the most in need seeing no energy bill and cost of living support at all from the government this winter. It has led to a spending clampdown which has hit the housing market and consumer facing sectors very hard. Construction firms, retailers and hospitality companies are among those that have suffered the most. So is the economy really in that bad a state? The fourth quarter contraction was worse than the 0.1% fall penciled in by most economists, and was also the biggest drop since the first of 3 months of 2021, the height of the pandemic. Across the year as a whole, the economy grew, but with an anemic 0.1%, down from 4.6% in 2022, which is to be expected post-COVID if you think about it. When stripping out the pandemic hit plunge seen in 2020, it's the weakest expansion since the aftermath of the financial crisis in 2009. But economists have been quick to point out that it is likely to be a recession in the mildest of senses and could prove very short-lived. They have said it is more accurate to describe the economy as having to have stagnated, having limped along close to zero for much of last year. There are also signs of resilience elsewhere in the economy, where the jobs market is proving very robust and wages have outstripped inflation for 5 months in a row. Figures earlier this week showed that the unemployment rate dropped to 3.8% in the 3 months to December, while inflation also held steady at 4% in January against expectations of a rise. So what does a technical recession mean? The figures deal a blow for the Prime Minister, basically. That's what it means. He's promised to grow the economy and it's not gone on. It's one of his major 5 priorities, but it's not occurred. So it couldn't come a worse time for the government in front of a general election. They've just lost 2 seats yesterday, which is the first time I think that Rishi Sunak has lost that, and the Conservatives in a row. The Chancellor said the recession comes off the back of high inflation and the recent run of interest rate rises, but insisted the economy was turning the corner. Does it mean that interest rate cuts are now imminent? It's likely to reinforce the case for interest rate cuts, which is good for the property market, because we have to get the economy going. So we want to get away from the stagnation and cut borrowing costs and get the economy on its way. But many are unclear whether the first rate will come before the summer. We were hoping for May or not. ING experts are not predicting a cut until August, while others think it could come in May or June. Inflation is still double the bank's 2% rate, but because of lags, you can cut rates and it will still continue coming down. What's the outlook for the economy in 2024? Economists have stressed it is not all doom and gloom in the economy, with many predicting a return to growth in the first quarter of 2024. Bank boss Andrew Bailey said on Wednesday, ahead of the GDP data, that the economy was beginning to pick up. Investor economist Ellie Henderson said the UK may not have been in recession at the end of last year, but it has indicated technically that it was. So the outlook for the economy is actually brighter than we may think. So what will happen to house prices if it is a recession? What's happened in the past? The recession in 2008 saw house prices crash. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen this time. The COVID recession saw no house price crash, despite the economy shrinking by 20%. In normal times, economies grow, which makes recessions unusual. So how does how does it, therefore, under recession, affect the housing market? Well, when the economy is strong and growing, it means there are more jobs. Companies are making more money, there's more recruitment going on, employees can be paid more, which leads to more money being spent, which means greater taxes, which means the government can spend it on healthcare, education, public services and so on. During recession, the opposite happens. Companies are forced to make cuts, leading to job losses, which is why it's important to look at this as a very benign recession. It's not as bad as 2009, it's not as bad as 2022. Okay, because when you get all those cuts, normally you get it leading to house price falls, which is what didn't happen in 2021, if you remember that. The 2008 recession was about the housing market and shares, which hit disproportionately higher income groups, according to Carol Proper, Professor of Economics at Imperial College in London. The current COVID recession seems to be hitting a much lower income group, the vulnerable workers, the young and less skilled, people who just got into the housing ladder and couldn't afford to keep on paying their mortgages. Why was 2020-22 different? House prices fell 1.7%, okay, but the government then stepped in, as many governments did around the world, to shut down parts of the economy and support it. So what will happen in 2024? We're not going to see that government stepping in by any means. They've already stepped in, they're in the market. Okay, the recession we've got now is not the same as the evil one before, so we can't expect the same thing. You know, we're again being affected by uncharted territory. We have COVID, we have Brexit, we've got the Ukraine war, the Israeli-Hamas conflict, and the energy crisis. The UK's works, I believe, has had so many spanners thrown into it, it's a surprise it works at all. But the one thing that is the saving grace now compared to 2008 and 2022 is population growth. I've gone on about this many times in the market wrap, but you're moving a new Glasgow into the country every year. You're not building any more houses. That's going to put one thing: pressure on rentals and pressure on house prices. It's not going to be going down. We're not going to be going in for a recession. Interest rates will be cut. Thanks for listening. That's my view. Please do comment, like if you like it or don't. But if you want more information, press the thing below. Thanks.